Hey everyone, we are going to do a Q&A with the filmmaker and with the director and producer who are here, so please stay. Do you want to go ahead and give them the mics? They're coming. Awesome, thank you for being here. I think we're standing. Yeah. Okay. So thank you again so much for being here, and wow, what a wonderful film. Amazing. Another round of applause. So I want to make sure we have time for audience Q&A, but I will kick us off with something I'm wondering, which is, can you talk to us about the importance of telling this story now, amongst all of what's going on across the country? I want to talk about kind of the importance of telling this story at a time like this.
Well, I wish Esther were here to tell you how she feels about it, because what she's spoken out so strongly on is that right now, especially, she spends a lot of her life down in Florida, and what's going on with the attacks on drag and trans people, it's just really time to tell the story, because they're talking about in second wave feminism, about a time when abortion was illegal. So we fall back. We're seeing that now, and we're really seeing that trans people and drag are on the front lines of attack. That's going to be the point they're going to keep on hammering in the upcoming election.
I think also, given that we're at a university, for me it was important to tell a story about an intellectual, because we're in times where a lot of these attacks and kind of skirmishes and the culture wars are happening in universities, and there's just a general kind of lack of respect for academics and intellectuals, I think, in the US. We've been having, in some ways, more success with the film in Europe, where people kind of get that, like, this is a worthy subject of a feature film. But also, Esther's just, we shot most of this film before the pandemic, and then over the pandemic, pandemic is ongoing, but over the first few years of the pandemic, Jean was editing over the first 2 years. And I think also we both just felt like Esther is a lovely person to spend time with. So there's also just that, it's like a gift for us to spend time with her, and also we wanted to share that with others.
And I would say one more reason why it was important to do this film now is because Esther, her views on the alliance between butch woman and trans folk, her views are very expansive. And I think one of the reasons they work right now is she's not caught in fixed ideas. She understands that the movement is still evolving. So, the terms, everything is still evolving. And the most important thing is to continue the conversation and listen.
Yeah, I have 1,000 questions and 1,000 things I want to talk to you about, but I'm sure a lot of our students are here, and I'm sure have other questions for you. Do you want, am I running the mic? Okay. Does anyone in the audience have a question that they would like to ask? Yes.
I know there was some footage of her purchase and at some conferences, but do you know how she's kind of feeling about academia now, other than, it's improved in some respects, but kind of more broadly?
She went to purchase in such a bad mood about going back because she really never felt appreciated. She didn't feel her work was appreciated. And so, that that colored her perception. But that day, it really was amazing because when she saw how into her the students were, all of a sudden, oh, wow, this is a queer campus. I think that really blew her away. And so now with the film, we're going to a lot more campuses, and she loves it. She's a natural. She really is.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions in the audience?
Where can one see this film in the future? Because this film needs to be seen a lot.
I'm just going to repeat it because we're live streaming. So where can we see this film in the future?
Well, educationally, it's coming out on Women Make Movies shortly. And in terms of a larger picture, we've got some screenings coming up in the New York area in June. But we're still looking for a good streaming opportunity. And I don't know whether that's coming, whether Women Make Movies wants to bring that piece on, or whether we're going to connect in another way. But we're really hoping, well, first of all, we are dedicated to having a good educational run, because this film was really meant as a way to preserve history and to work in educational places. So, but the larger picture, I think we're still hoping.
Yeah, we're at the end. Well, we're approaching the last few months of our very successful film festival run over the past year. I think we started in about a year ago in March of last year. And that's been great. Esther's been able to travel with us to some of the screenings, and it's just, we've had great experiences with audiences. People love the dogs, and so we're really happy to have this this next piece of it, which is the educational distribution with Women Make Movies, and then I think we will have some kind of streaming options probably after the summer, like towards the end of the summer, the second half of this year. But everything's kind of shaking out post pandemic, and so everything's a little weird, but in terms of distribution. But we're doing it kind of in phases. So spread the word. We are on social media, on Facebook, and mostly Facebook, given the the vintage of Esther's networks. That's the place where people really are engaging. So I would suggest, if you are on Facebook, go check out the page. There's a lot of we'll be posting there about our upcoming screenings and stuff. And we also have a website where you can sign up for updates and stuff. But definitely, those of you who teach, ask the library. We'll send out I think Women Make Movies will probably send out like an announcement officially. The ink's not dry yet. We're about to sign the agreement, but it will be, soon. So definitely, word of mouth is really important for a film like this that's completely independent, labor of love, community supported.
And about a butch lesbian. I can tell you I had a different journey in making a film about Larry Kramer than making this film. It's just a lot harder to get this film funded. But we persisted, and we've had so many people support us and support the project, so we got it done.
Well, I'll just say that as a trans person who's been a part of Barnard's community for 10 years, I think you're in the perfect place to be showing this film. And I will ask another question, which is, what do you think our young people here at Barnard and other educational institutions, what would you like them to learn from this and take away from it? Lessons, other thoughts?
Well, I think there's a bunch of things in here, but the most important for me are, first of all, realizing that there is a torch that's getting passed, and this is a movement, and we're all, a part of it. And so that is crucially important. And community it's vital. I don't think a lot of these things would have happened without a movement and without communities. Both are really important.
Yeah, I mean, I think the importance of a lot of the moments of joy in the film come from intergenerational kind of recognition and affinities, which are so nourishing, when you can find them. So I think that's what I would hope that people see modeled. I mean, Esther really models that. Like, she'll sit down and talk to anybody and be interested, pay attention, try to understand where they're coming from. She's been retired from anthropology for a long time, so it's not it's just who she is. And I think that's, for young people, for people of all ages, it's really important to do that across generations.
Yeah, I see a lot of myself in her and a lot of our young people in her. So I think that your points about community and intergenerational knowledge are really important. Do we have other questions from the audience? Yes.
My question was, you kind of brought everything in this 90-minute film, but so much probably was also left out, and this is also an act of preserving history and sort of sharing it. Right? Is there going to be an accompaniment or something for the educational space, like a website or more access to the data center collection of stuff, the interviews you have or materials you have that you can engage with, study more, or process?
I'll just summarize. Yeah, of course. They were asking, there's a lot of content that was probably left out of the film. Are there places, websites, other places we can learn more, get the content that might have been cut because this was not a long enough movie?
Right. Well, it had to be cut down.
Of course.
But that's a really good question because it gives us a chance to pitch Esther's books. Her memoir is wonderful, and so is the collection of essays that inspired the film. Margaret Mead Made Me Gay. Her writing is wonderful. In fact, she's writing right now about being a queer old movie star. And she's right. Yeah, that's what's so engaging about her, is that she is so engaged. And looking at how did this happen? What does this mean? How does it connect? So yeah, I would say read her work. And also that essay is, I think it's quite amazing, My Best Informant Stress. It just was so, it really turned the camera around and looked at the anthropologist and said, well, what's your motivation for doing this? And I think whenever we can kind of bring that to a discipline, some honesty, that's important.
But also, now that we're kind of moving into this educational distribution phase, I mean, we do want to have some kind of, discussion guide, study guide, resources I mean, for me, it's important also to point people towards the archives that we drew from, so that archives aren't any good unless people use them. So I think if there's any, we're still doing this as a labor of love. So if there's people who, this seems like a great, place to kind of get ideas about how to how to go about doing a really good study guide. And so if any of you who teach, or any of you who are students, have ideas about this, I haven't been in school in a while. Jean just retired. So I'm sure there's like more interest. I'm thinking of like a PDF, but I'm sure there's much more interesting ways to do it. PDFs are great, but they can circulate easily. But we're very open to people getting in touch and just giving us ideas about what you want to see in terms of making it really useful for teaching. So yeah, reach out, let us know.
I will nominate myself. I saw a question over here.
Yeah, I hope this isn't a stupid question. But does a young lesbian today have to choose between roles as femme or butch, or has that changed to some extent in the culture?
I'll just repeat. Do you think that young lesbians have to choose between femme and butch the same way, or do we think that has changed over time?
I think there's much more of a boutique approach in all of this. And I think that's what, Esther fought for, in a way, is to be able to say, okay, this is what I want, and this is the kind of person I want to hook up with. But this is not, mandatory. I mean, she faced mandatory when she was a lesbian feminist. So she understands how, that choice can't be mandated for this young lesbian. She's got to go out and figure it out and see where she falls. And it changes over time. Really change. Just as an old lesbian, I can tell you that things did change over time. Yeah. I also want to say, although Esther can't be here tonight, we're really lucky in that Esther's brother and sister-in-law came to see this film about Esther. And we're so happy to have them.
And also just to be at Barnard, it's exciting. I mean, we just, sat through the film again and watched it, but it's really, that whole Barnard moment is the genesis of Esther and Holly. I mean, Esther and Amber. Oops. I'm tired. It's the genesis of their great love story, and also just the whole Barnard conference and all that. It was amazing to have. It's amazing that Esther's been there for all these things, right? I mean, she's actually that's such a gift for filmmakers, because you can just follow the person, and it's actually not like context, it's like their experience. But it was really it's great to be at Barnard, and and Esther would have loved to be here also.
And I think something the film does really well is I think sometimes we get stuck in like, this all started with Stonewall. So I think it was really amazing to get some of the history of like what it was like before then and be offered, and especially on this campus that, played a role in the film. So that's awesome.
It was influential in deciding to make the film about Esther, the fact that she had lived through all these amazing periods and had been, really, in some cases, an organizer of things. So, yeah.
So, Jean, dropping into Esther's world for several years, it's like this immersion in the way she sees, which is, ethnographically and I'm just curious if that. I always think about that way of seeing the world, sometimes in a critical way, actually. But has that impacted how you, as a cinematographer, as a filmmaker, how you see your process? Has that shifted in any way?
Well, it was very influential in wanting to do a film about her, because that lens, the anthropological lens, is so important. And I think it is very related to documentary filmmaking in many ways. You have to ask yourself many of the same questions, and also, this art of interviewing, this intimate exchange is very much a part of those disciplines. I would just say that you can get bored of what you're making a film about, especially when you're making it for years, or you could get sick and tired of the person. But I never got tired of Esther. I still would love to go hang out and have a beer together. So I guess it is infectious. She's got an infectious nature.
I think we have time for one more question. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, first off, amazing film. Secondly, I'd love to hear you talk more about those intergenerational legacies you mentioned briefly. What do you think the value of young queer people consuming media and films that center around queer elders is? What should we take?
I mean, I think it's a way of feeling less lonely, that you can have, allies even in history, that it's not just who you're kind of engaging with on a day-to-day basis, but you can expand who what you think of as your community through through generations, but also through in the past, and I think it also helps to it's essential for imagining a future. You can't, I mean, like Bob Marley said, you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you're coming from. He didn't said it much better than that. Sorry. But yeah, I mean, there's no way to. You need tools and you need ideas about how people have made different choices and what worked and what didn't work, and what how people formed community. I mean, that whole the whole upstate kind of lesbian feminist idyllic scene. I mean, I think that people are doing that now also, creating kind of these well, I mean, it's always been happening with queer communities in a certain way, going to nature and going, just creating spaces, and Cherry Grove, and just, yeah, I think just realizing that that everything has that things are, everything is changing, but also everything was built by specific people. I think that's for me, that's like a calming thought. It's a way of just realizing, okay, this is, we're on this, we're all part of this flow of people trying to find their way, and why would you limit yourself to just people who are like you, or in your in your classes or whatever. So I think making those stretches and trying to figure out how one's identity can be enriched or complicated or inspired by people from the past is really, for me, that's helpful. But yeah.
And I'll just add one thing, because that was a wonderful encapsulation of it, but also just in terms of the product you are consuming. I mean, if we don't open up a dialogue and watch things that maybe aren't, the mainstream that's being marketed to queers in one way or another, if we can't open that up a bit and allow independent voices and allow low budget, voices from the periphery to participate in that conversation, then we risk this reification. We risk being just sucked up into this, just another niche, marketing niche.
I'll just say thank you so much again for being here. Can we? Yes, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you, Athena Festival.
Great job.